Out of the gate, there will be spoilers for Sonic Frontiers riddled throughout this video, so if you haven't, please play the game first. If you're still here, let's get into it. Sonic Frontiers was definitely the game I looked forward to the most this year, and alongside Mega Man 11 and Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2, one of the games I looked forward to the most in a while. I've always wanted to see what an open world Sonic game would look like, and the prequel comic and Knuckles short animation only heightened my excitement, and now Frontiers is finally here. Starting with the story and writing, I really enjoyed it. It was really nice seeing Sonic have such genuine conversations with his friends, and I enjoyed how at times, Sonic would comment on his surroundings.
Eggman tech. It seems abandoned though. And still, I better keep on my toes.
Making it feel like this is his first time experiencing this adventure with the player. I loved how this game portrayed Amy, Tails, and Knuckles. There were multiple parts of each island's story that captivated me.
Are you telling me you would leave behind someone in need?
No, but I'm also worried about you. You can't help anyone if you're stuck in limbo. I've got one more Titan bot to go. Hopefully I'll find Tails too. I'm worried about him.
He'll be alright. Now hurry up and save the day already.
When this is all over, I think I need to go it alone for a while. I can't grow into my full potential if I always fall back on you. If that's okay.
You're free to go your own way. I guess you just grew up on me a little faster than I expected.
Are you saying I outpaced you?
Yeah, don't push it.
Story moments like these genuinely kept me invested throughout the entire game. As someone whose favorite Sonic character is Knuckles, aside from Sonic himself, I was genuinely smiling watching them interact, taking small jabs at each other.
The problem is, I'm still ghost-like, and you're useless underwater.
Wow, thanks for the concern.
Hopefully, when the time comes, other characters can have their character fleshed out as well. Speaking of fleshed out characters, Sage and Eggman were also two characters I enjoyed a lot. It was interesting to see Sage grow as a character, from her being completely indifferent to Sonic, to gradually growing more empathetic to him throughout the game due to his actions and Eggman's respect for him.
Sonic, I hereby induct you into the Eggman Empire in order to save us all. Understand? This is not an alliance.
Speaking of Eggman himself, I'm genuinely surprised how much this game served to humanize him. Eggman has always been one of my favorite villains, as he's always managed to be a ruthless roboticist, but through his imprisonment in cyberspace, he began bonding with Sage while also relying on her. More on that later, but it was really interesting to see this side of him. Seeing Eggman talking to someone he genuinely appreciates and cares about really fleshed out his character. While I did enjoy the story, there are a few things that irked me. For example, a central point in gameplay and story are these pillars built to hold the Chaos Emeralds, and yet, by helping out Coco's, sometimes one just zips into existence. Sonic's reaction here is honestly pretty fitting. How Sage was built up also left me wishing that she was a bit more antagonistic, as she really doesn't do anything other than trigger the Titans to attack Sonic. Not gonna lie though, I find it hilarious that Sonic actually decided to run away from Wyvern. He tried and made that mistake before, and he wasn't gonna make it again.
Whoa!
Also, when Tails, Amy, and Knuckles made a friendship circle to cure Sonic, that genuinely left me disappointed. Other than that though, the story was great and Ian Flynn did a great job writing it. Finally moving on to the gameplay, I enjoyed almost every second of it. Sonic in the open zone controlled naturally, and it was honestly just great going from one side of the map to another, as Sonic's speed really complements such a large area for exploration. I also got a lot more mileage out of the stomp than I expected to, using it to gain more height than a standard double jump, and using it as a pretty solid platforming tool. Sonic also has a new move called the Psy-Loop that allows him to draw almost anything the player wants, really, infinitely generating rings that can get him to this game's new top speed mode that is just what it sounds like, and can be used for exploration and combat. He can even draw an infinity sign or whatever this is to get infinite boost as well. The main annoyance I have towards Sonic in the open zone is the fact that Sonic can't boost if he hit a spring and boosted before in midair, and the camera setting Sonic into a 2D section when you don't mean to enter one, or mishandling Sonic due to a change of camera angle. Each zone has its own feel, and had areas for Sonic to do minor platforming challenges with minuscule rewards or even off-path routes that I honestly did due to how fun they were. Each zone is filled to the brim with things to do that aren't directly connected to the story that kept me from finishing said story of each island before the next. Jumping off rails while boosting was also just some goofy fun. Honestly, the fourth island, Kronos Island, is probably my favorite, as climbing these towers through different means was the whole island really. Most of the time though, you need to collect character tokens, used to access the next part of the story and talk to your friends in Sage. They can be found sparsely throughout the overworld, randomly from a Psy-Loop, or even a lot from these treasure chests that you can Psy-Loop. By reaching certain parts of the story through character tokens, you'll have to complete a small minigame-esque challenge. Most of these weren't so bad, but then there's the pin. To fill out your map, there's these small challenges, all of them being pretty simple, and in a good variety too. Some of them were puzzles, parrying projectiles, and some were short speed tests, which to me makes the most sense. Also, whoever made the decision that some challenges can only be done at nighttime needs to be fired. I'm being serious, this is not a joke. Sonic is also more combat oriented in this game. Starting with the Psy-Loop, it allows Sonic to raise enemies into the air, break their guard, and stun them. Moving on from it, Sonic has a dodge, parry, and a basic combo that can be spiced up by means of his skill tree. The combat for the most part is enjoyable, but it doesn't really strike me as anything special. Sonic's skill tree does have some pretty useful moves, but most of the time, I just stuck to the moves I knew worked. And when I did engage in a fight that I felt like ending quickly, I ended up doing this. I don't mind the smaller enemies, and certain guardians are really fun to fight, like climbing Ashura's arms, or running on Squid's road, but others like Strider and Shark, thank God for the title card. Also, the fact that the parry requires no timing at all left a really bad taste in my mouth, as the game already does a great job communicating when enemies are gonna attack through animation and thin static close to Sonic. Defeating these guys would drop gears, used to unlock the worst part of the game, cyberspace. Okay, to be less harsh, I'd say these were a mixed bag, as I actually did enjoy a good handful of the cyberspace levels, and just like any Sonic game, replaying these stages to see the fastest time you can get was fun. However, the central problem to me at least was how Sonic controls. While graceful and fast in the open zone, clunky and slow Sonic becomes in cyberspace. I could make a Werehog joke. For some reason, Sonic feels slow and static in cyberspace, and just didn't feel good to control. Most levels were also just boring themselves, or really short. And along with the stage's themes like Chemical Plant and Green Hill being reused, some stages were ripped from Generations. Each cyberspace stage also had 3 side objectives, including ring count, speed, and red rings. There were only a few times I had to go back to a stage for a red ring I missed due to me taking a different route, and the ring threshold was never a problem. And aside from a few select levels, the time limit for S rank is way too generous. Overall, I'm kinda just indifferent to cyberspace as a whole. Now we can talk about the fishing. In each world, you can find a cyberspace portal taking you to Big the Cat, who's more than happy to supply Sonic with a fishing rod for these purple coins you collect from the open zone. It's pretty simple. All you have to do is hit the reel button when the white line overlaps with the red circle. I'm not even sure if being fast affects it. This gotta be the only game where catching garbage isn't all bad. The main point of interest is the shop, that allowed you to buy that island's memory tokens to speed up the story, attack and defense berries to level up Sonic's damage and defense by aid of the Hermit Cocoa to extraordinary levels by means of fishing, and Lost Cocos, which can be given to the Elder Cocoa to increase Sonic's speed or ring capacity. Speaking of which, you can actually fish up a fast travel to each of them after fishing up these scrolls. It also serves as a way to buy portal gears, which can allow you to almost skip combat entirely. Other than realistic fish, you can not only catch things that reference past Sonic games, but you can also catch treasure chests that have these golden tickets in it, which is pretty valuable, as everything in the store costs 1 ticket when you have one. Along with that are the egg memos, which give insight to Eggman's growing bond with Sage, from only seeing her as a subordinate, to even solemnly left wondering if Maria was anything like Sage. This was a weird way of including Eggman's development, but Big probably has his methods. Overall, the fishing was a really good break of pace, and the music, just amazing. The music in the open zone was explorative and ambient, which I thought was really nice for it. And the cyberspace levels had some pretty funky and catchy tunes. But the supersonic music?
Now here we go, it's the end of the show. Hear them, they're calling your name. 'Cause in the end, it's you and your friends. You'll find your flame. 'Cause now you're going to see I'm hanging on to the other side. I won't give up till the end of May. I'm what you get when the stars align. Now they say you're just an enemy.
The supersonic fights were honestly a big source of hype, and the music only served to amplify that. While I didn't think much of the combat before, I feel as if it fits a lot more with Supersonic. Seeing the moves you unlocked as Sonic in the Supersonic fights made unlocking these moves feel 10 times more rewarding. The fights themselves were spectacles that, while not difficult in the slightest, even on hard mode, were fun and each had their own strength. Like how the Wyvern fight is a high-speed chase, you have to maneuver through Supreme's attacks, you have to catch Knight's shield, or just that feeling you get when you fight Giganto. Throughout my entire playthrough, the supersonic fights after Giganto were the thing I looked forward to the most after each zone. And that's the same reason why I was completely baffled when I was met with this as the secret final boss. It wasn't even that hard. I'm just mad that we didn't get a supersonic conclusion. At the end of the day, Sonic Frontiers is not a perfect game, but it was a joy to blast through, and I plan to 100% the game soon after this video. The story being as good as it was a genuine surprise to me, as I didn't know Ian Flynn was the writer until after I started my playthrough, and the gameplay was addicting until the very end. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Peace.